Friday saw 6 Insulate Britain activists released from prison, and they immediately vowed to continue their campaign of chaos. Among them, Dr. Diana Warner, a retired GP from Bristol, who was sentenced to 2 months in jail for breaking an injunction banning her from Britain's motorways in September. Orders that she and her fellow eco-terrorists burnt outside the Royal Courts of Justice. Given Dr. Warner, who took part in Extinction Rebellion's infamous protests on the London Tube and actually absconded on the day of her hearing to protest at a power station, given her and her ilk are unfazed by the current measures meant to keep them in check, is it time for the police to go even harder? And more to the point, is it time for Insulate Britain to simply give up all illegal activities? That's the question I'm putting to you this evening. Get in touch, Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews. I'll bring you the results of our poll in a moment. But first, let me bring in Dr. Warner, who will be fighting her corner against the voice of the people, the no-nonsense former SAS trooper, Phil Campion. So, Diana, tell me, what was it like in prison first up? I hear you're in a jail with killers, with rapists. How did you feel being in there?
Hi, Dan. Thanks for inviting me. I knew I would be going to prison most likely, and I was, taking up my responsibility and learning as much as I could from the experience, taking the opportunity to rest after what was actually quite a grueling Insulate Britain campaign, but followed closely on the heels by being found not guilty at the Crown Court by a jury who heard all the evidence for stopping that train at Canary Wharf you mentioned. So what was it like? In fact, I found the women I was with very caring, looking after each other, and making sure on the whole that everybody was okay.
Okay, so you've gone to prison, Diana, and you still want to continue this illegal campaign of eco-terrorism. Why? Why have you not learnt your lesson?
You've put words into my mouth.
Well, do you want to continue your campaign of eco-terrorism? I'm told you do.
What I need to do is to fulfil my vow to a baby that I made just before I retired in 2018, to do everything I could to make her life livable and to keep her healthy when she was in her 20s and 30s.
Okay, so will you continue to break the law?
So what I need to do is to look and to see what is the most effective way I can do that. I can try my hardest to help that baby, which also means to help.
Okay, so you will continue to break the law.
To help your children.
But you will continue to break the law if necessary in your eyes.
I will continue to do everything I can to help save lives.
And you're not scared of going back to jail?
If I have to go back, I am scared that the climate and ecological emergencies will not be sorted. I am despairing for those 8,500 people who die every year from fuel poverty. And I want us to have a sensible, appropriate way of managing the terrible conditions, the terrible things we find ourselves in now.
Well, I don't think you should use the word sensible, Diana, because there's nothing sensible about these images of how Insulate Britain put British lives at risk on a daily basis over this campaign of eco-terrorism. But look, I want to bring Phil Campion in. Phil, you've heard from Diana there.
You're not the person who says we're terrorists. I mean, I am in the business of saving lives. I'm a retired GP. And that
we'll go and have a look at the definition from the Terrorism Act, because I did so and you tick every box. But look, we'll come back to that.
Because you were speaking over me.
Well, I say go and have a look at the Terrorism Act and the definition of it, because what Insulate Britain was doing ticks every box. But look, I want to bring Phil Campion in.
I disagree with that completely. So perhaps you ought to see it, but I don't want this tit for tat. Let's find what we have in common, which is...
Okay. Well, look, I want to give Phil a go. I want to give Phil a go. Let's bring Phil in. Phil, you've heard from Diana there, and clearly her stint in prison hasn't been enough to stop her breaking the law. So what should the police and government now do?
Look, first of all, let's from my point of view, I don't want to see anybody harmed. I don't want to see 8,000 people dying, and I don't want none of that. But there's ways and means of putting your point across. And what you actually did, okay, was very stupid, very irresponsible, okay, and from somebody who, with your background, who's supposed to come from the educated elite, all right, it wasn't the cleverest of things to do. And you don't seem to have learnt your lesson. So maybe your sentence wasn't stiff enough. Maybe you need to go back in again. You don't seem to be grasping it. Gluing yourself to the floor and stopping normal people from getting work to and from work, and from, preventing emergency services, cutting around, and in some cases, actually conveying people who are seriously injured to hospital is not a sensible thing to do. There's plenty of ways of protesting. Okay, plenty of ways, plenty of legal ways of protesting, but you've decided to do it illegally. And now, from what I'm hearing, you're saying you're prepared to do it again. Absolutely stupid on the next level. And yet you're supposed to be the ones who come from this class of people who are educated and all that sort of stuff, yet you can't see what you're doing. Crazy, absolutely crazy.
Diana, how do you respond to Phil? Diana, how do you respond to Phil?
And I would say to Phil that this campaigns to end fuel poverty have been going on for 30 years, and they have been unsuccessful. In 2001, Michael Meacher had a plan to end fuel poverty. He was Environment Secretary, and before he actually instituted it, it was all set up. Before he instituted it, he was sacked from his position as Environment Secretary, and it wasn't done. So this ending fuel poverty, insulation of Britain, lowering carbon emissions was, we know, since 2001 has been necessary. There's an End Fuel Poverty Coalition.
Yes, but Phil is saying, why can't you operate within the law, Diana? Can you just address that point?
This is the point.
I have addressed it. The End Fuel Poverty has never had such high profile as it has after our campaign.
Because you're prepared to break the law.
Talking about it, and 30 years of effort had not made a difference beforehand. So you tell me why this very hard campaign, it was hard to do. I do not like to cause stress to people going to work, but the stakes are so high now. We have 2 years to change our attitudes, our habits, in order to combat the climate and ecological emergency. After 2 years, it will be too late. So the stakes are so high that big efforts were demanded to...
Diana, I'm sorry, you're speaking complete nonsense. You're speaking complete nonsense. It is completely ridiculous to say that we have no hope after 2 years. But I've watched your previous interviews, Diana. You talk about the fact that we're about to run out of oxygen. It's actually highly irresponsible, Phil, because it's words from folk like Diana, which is terrifying unnecessarily young people. And by the way, I say this as an environmentalist. I say this as someone who absolutely believes in sustainability. But there's no need for this sort of terrifying language.
Yeah, they've taken the word.
Has said 2 to 3 years before. That's not my language.
I was addressing that to Phil, Diana. Just let Phil come in and then I'll let you come back.
Okay.
She's taken the worst possible scenario, which isn't backed by anybody, told us we've got 2 years left, and demonstrated in an unreasonable way by breaking the law. It's absolutely insane behaviour.
That's not my words. That's not my words.
Diana, can I just work out what's going on with you? Can I put a scenario to you? You were a doctor. You retired. You have quite a lot of time on your hands, and it seems to me that you want to become a professional agitator. Wouldn't it be much better for you to spend your time going back to the medical profession, for example? Because I've had a look at your hit sheet, and it seems like you're being a bit attention-seeking, and that you've got a lot of time on your hands, and you just love becoming a professional protester. Do you understand that for someone like me, it feels like you're a little bit addicted to this behaviour, and I feel a bit embarrassed for you about that. It's quite immature the way that you're acting for such an accomplished woman.
Thank you for letting me answer what are quite ridiculous accusations. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still working as a GP. As a doctor, I have responsibility to safeguard public health. I also have a responsibility to whistle-blow when people are in danger. I have a responsibility to go to the media when people are in danger. And if nothing works, then in my opinion, I still have a responsibility to take action.
Well, isn't it a shame that someone like Diana doesn't believe in the democratic process?
I believe in life, and
sorry, that was to Phil. That was to Phil, Diana. Diana, just that was for Phil. I believe in life too. Surprisingly,
I'm not laughing at you. I can think that your opinions are wrong.
No, but Diana, just give Phil a chance to respond, because you keep talking over Phil, Diana, and that's not fair. Phil, come in.
No, seriously, it's just middle class twaddle coming out of her at the moment. It's just unthought through twaddle, almost talking down to people. Okay, you're not a doctor anymore. You're getting in the way. Go home and do something constructive if you're going to help with the situation, and don't get in the way of normal people, decent folk, trying to go about their everyday business. Right, Dan, I'm out of here because my back's nearly dead. All right. Lovely to speak to you, darling, but you do really need to sort a few issues out, all right? I'm out of here, Dan. I'll see you in a bit.
Phil's gone. OK, Phil, thank you. Diana, I just have a final question for you. You have questioned my definition of Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain as terrorists. But if I actually read to you from the Terrorism Act 2000, this is to Diana, if I read this to Diana, terrorism means the use or threat of action where the use or threat is designed to influence the government, and the use or threat is made for the purpose of advancing a political or ideological cause. The Act's definition goes on to say action falls within the subsection if it involves serious damage to property, endangers a person's life, creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, or is designed to seriously to interfere with or seriously to disrupt an electronic system. I put it to you that Insulate Britain ticked every one of those boxes, and that's why I will sit here on national television and describe you as eco-terrorists. Am I wrong?
You are, yes, definitely. I don't see Insulate Britain as actually as endangering lives. I mean, I would take responsibility for my actions, and I have made them as safe as possible, as has everybody. I mean, there are, yeah, and you know, interfering with electrical activity. I don't understand what you're saying.
I would say that your actions involved serious damage to property, you endangered people's lives, you created a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, and you did try to seriously disrupt an electronic system by trying to stop trains. So, look, that is the government definition of terrorism according to the Terrorism Act of 2000. You saw, by the way, Diana, how your words just infuriate good, ordinary, hard-working folk like Phil Campion who couldn't even stick around to hear it anymore. So I say to you, start following the law. Use the democratic process. Final word, Diana.
I'm getting lots of support. I had cheering of 2,000 to 3,000 people when I stepped up on a stage to address people at College Green just on Saturday. So there are multitude of different opinions within Britain and within society, and that's fine. But we need to have proper discussions. We need to really sort out where our differences are.
I agree. Discussions. So stop your dangerous eco-terrorism, Diana, because I'll give you a platform on this show. We will have the discussions, but stop breaking the law. Absolute pleasure to have you. That's Dr. Diana Warner. Thank you so much.
I mean, that doesn't help.
I'm not calling you a name. I'm stating a fact. You were on a campaign of eco-terrorism. You were sent to prison. You are a criminal. It's not name-calling. I'm simply stating facts. Dr. Diana Warner, thank you so much for being here. So who do you agree with? Dylan on Twitter says, of course they should. They are being ridiculous. If you want to make your point, don't glue yourself to the roads. Lorna via email, it worries me when you report on Insulate Britain, as I believe the government used this as a tool to ban protesting. Completely understand that point, by the way, and I have never ever said that legal protesting should be banned. And Keith on Twitter says everybody has a right to protest, but these guys were absolutely pathetic and hypocrites. They also put lives at risk. And your verdict is in. It's overwhelming. 92% of you agree with Phil Campion that Insulate Britain should give up on illegal activity, while just 8% say the group should go on. After the break, does Prince Harry deserve British police protection regardless of whether he's paying for it?